Hey guys, good morning. How are we doing? It's good to be back on here, sharing a few more insights and understanding about mental health and well-being. I'm just about to record some content, but something came to me beforehand about the relationship that we have with ourselves and how we compare ourselves to other people. I just wanted to share a few things. And this is something I am so guilty of myself. I think I see it in a lot of people I work with and know personally, but it is simply the relationship of comparing ourselves to other people. And I think it's just to start off, I think just to really explain what it is it's looking at yourself and looking at another person and wishing maybe that you had the level of resource they had. Maybe you had the same partner or the job or their happiness. And basically looking at that and wishing you had it. And that's coming from a place of the assumption that you don't have it. Yeah. And I think so many things, I think the first of all is most powerful thing is that comparison is the thief of joy. Like comparing yourself to someone else is going to make you feel like shit. Let's be really honest. If you're going to look at someone else's strengths and compare them to yours, but not only that, it's almost like a social media effect. Essentially, when you look at someone else, you tend to compare their best assets to your worst assets, like the worst parts of you. Like, so because in our minds, we're fully conscious of the good and the bad, and sometimes with some people we're a lot more in touch with the things that we aren't so proud of, the things we don't have, or we have a little bit of that pessimistic view on ourselves or our life or our resources and ourselves, and we tend to take that and look at someone else, look at someone else's best assets and compare ourselves. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that person on a pedestal and we're going to put ourselves down. It's quite self-explanatory. You're going to feel like crap after that, and it's not fair and it's not right to do. And I think it really comes back to that comparison is the thief of joy. But there's a few more valid points I wanted to kind of add to that. Is that the first thing, and it's quite self-explanatory, is that when we look at someone else's life, it's really important to understand that as humans, we all have stuff going on in the background. We all have stuff going on and what we tend to find with some humans who may come across as glowing and well, actually, they may be showing off, but actually they may be showing a stand of resilience. They may be just trying to have a positive outlook on life. But we don't know deep down that actually that person could be crumbling. They could be having a lot of pressures and stresses in their work, in their personal lives, maybe with their health, with their mental health. It's really hard to explain, and that's the risk with comparison, is we're only taking a few little snippets. But the point I really wanted to kind of get at today was, I think there's three really valid points. Like, I think the first thing is that when you look at someone else and you think they've got it better, you have to understand, it's really important to understand, as humans, we're all on a journey in life. We've all got our own paths. We've all got a past, we've all got a present, we've all got a future. It's really important to understand that when we see someone else who may be doing what we perceive to be better than ourselves, we don't know how hard that person's worked. We don't know where that person has been. Like, sometimes I tend to meet the most positive people who've had some of the most hardest of times. Like with myself personally, where I'm up to now is an absolute blessing. If you know me quite personally, the last couple of years have been very challenging for those very close around me. And I think it's really important to understand, if you ever look at someone else who you perceive to be doing well or has more, it's really important to understand, you've got to understand why are they like that? What has happened? How hard are they working? How much time are they putting in? How much sacrifice have they made? What are they doing? And where have they come from? What's working, as in path-wise, what paths have they come from to be in this present? Why are they so happy? And actually, the reason I say that is because I think sometimes the need to compare to others there is that element of, I want to feel better about myself. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I think what we want to kind of say is that sometimes when we look at other people, it can breed what we call jealousy. Essentially jealousy that because someone's maybe happier, maybe someone's got more money, maybe someone's got a better house or been on holiday, all of these type of things. It's such a common reaction, jealousy. I mean, we look at it from like a more ancestral point of view, for example. We're going to look that basically if someone did have more resources, it's a means of survival. If you're going to have more food, if you're going to have more money, if you're going to have more goods to trade with, or more skills that you can be use or contribute to this world, or more friends, these are all little factors that are going to increase the chances of survival. Not guarantee it, but increase. And as a result, you would look for other people and be jealous, because as a result, you don't have as much opportunity as that person. So what I'd always advise with that is, and it's something I've dealt with, I still get jealous at times, and that's okay. It's a perfectly normal human reaction. It's not, they were here to demonize jealousy, but what I'd always advise to anybody, including myself and anybody, is that if you do find yourself being triggered and being jealous, be inspired. don't be jealous. Put the jealousy to one side, because it does get pointless. It drags you down. It can bring out the bitterness, resentfulness, and actually what we tend to find is people who act from a place of jealousy. It can show, you know, in your actions, the way you talk to people, the way you're snidey, the way you might be resentful, the way actually you might get pleasure from seeing people fall. And that's not, you know, I'm not about that at all. I think that's really unfair. I think, again, if we're seeing someone do well, praise them. If we see them crash, let's see them from, you know, I'm really sorry to hear that. What can we do to help you get back up? Let's do this. You know, we're all here to try and be our most authentic and best versions of ourselves. Yeah. And what we're going to tend to find is that when we act from that place of jealousy, these are some of the factors that happen. We would get pleasure out of it. And that's not right, because that's just us expressing our pain. It's not us dealing with our pain. What we must do actually in those moments of jealousy is to acknowledge that pain and say, it's okay, it's totally understandable, but actually be inspired by that. If someone has got a little bit more knowledge, more understanding, relationships, you know, finances, whatever it is that they have which you would like a little bit more of, you know, because there's nothing wrong with wanting and developing skills and developing this. It's asking yourself, how did they do it? What did they do to obtain? What work are they doing? What little skills, what little tweaks? You know, and the chances are when people are in a higher, whatever you want to call it, in a different place, very simply, whether it's higher, that's for you to perceive. I think generally when you get into that kind of head zone, the reality is, and this is just from personal experience, we're all human, we're all on the same level. We all maybe have different skills and assets and different things we can contribute to, but our worth, we're all on the same level together. You know, it's the humble presence. There's no one that's worse or no one that's better. You know, we step out of that egotistical way of thinking that they're worse or I'm worse or they're better or I'm better, and actually we're just here. We're all here together, and that's it. And that's where we breathe true, genuine connection. But bringing it back, asking, and the point I mean that is that because you ask someone, that the chances are they're going to be able to help you. They're going to be able to share these insights, these valuable lessons and things they've learned. And this is something you can apply to it, you know, and slowly start to bring into play and everything. But bringing it back to why the risk of comparison. Well, one of them is that when we look at another person, bring back to my initial point, when we put someone on a pedestal, we put someone down here and we're down here, what we tend to do is we actually disconnect from that person. So if I look at you and I put you on a pedestal, it's, well, basically, how do I describe it? And I remember Dr. John Martini, I learned this from him. It's a really powerful thing. If you look at someone and think they're better at you, and you say, well, why are they better at you? Maybe they're smarter, maybe they're hardworking, maybe they're good with people, maybe they're loving and caring and all of these kind of things, or maybe they have these skills. The reality is as humans, we are mirrors. What you see in me, what I see in you is also in me, and what you see in me is also in you. So if you tend to see any of these kind of, like, you know, positive traits or maybe unhelpful traits, for example, they're also going to be in you as well, if that makes sense. And what we tend to find is that if you look at someone who they generally think that they're better because of this, it's because you're too humble to admit it. You're too humble to admit that actually you have those assets, what you see in that person. Yeah? And as a result, you go below someone, but the problem is when you come below, you disconnect. The reality is acknowledging actually they've got those skills, but I'm deep down, I've got those skills too. It's time for me to harness them. It's time for me to bring them out. It's time for me to start working on them, really showing the world what they are. And the same thing applies if you think you're better than someone, it's because you're too much of a pedestal to sit. If you look down on someone and you see those things that are in them that make you think you're better than them, maybe you see like weakness, or maybe you see like vulnerability or insecurity or stupidity or all these unhelpful traits, that's because you have those traits within you as well, but you're too much on a pedestal to admit it. And what we tend to, what's really important to understand is to bring it back down. Again, from a higher place, we're looking down at people's unhelpful or less desirable traits, whatever you want to call them, and we separate ourselves. Whereas if you do it from underneath, there is a tendency to think, actually, it's the ability to accept the more helpful traits, we'll say, for example. And so actually, by accepting, you can see those traits from a humble position, we bring ourselves back into line. But also, when we're on a bit of a pedestal, it's accepting that we do have unhelpful traits in us. We all have dark and light in us, and we must bring it back down. Why? To accept them, to make peace with them, but also to connect. Yeah, because the reality is you can earn so much money, you can have all of these choices, or you can be whoever you are in society, on the top of the creme de la creme, the best of the best. The reality is you're still human. You still have a heart, you still have a brain, you still have a mind. Our hearts all beat as one, and that's the reality of it. Is really kind of stepping out of that egotistical way of being and bringing it back down onto that humble level being. And personally, I have challenges with that quite often. I'll go up and down, I fluctuate at all, but it's being aware of it and actually bringing it back into line, and actually asking yourselves in those moments, what is it that you're not embracing, i.e. the good in you, or what is it you're trying to smother and push away, the bad in you or the unhelpful in you, and actually just be a lot more accepting of oneself. Now, we have really gone off. And if you watched a few of our videos, you know this is what we're about. We never stay on the subject that we originally really branched off on. We've gone to some depth. I hope this has kind of made sense. Please leave a comment in below. If you want me to really go into any more depth about things, just let me know what you think. Bringing it back to comparison, two really powerful things we want to kind of first of all understand is that what we're going to find is that when we compare ourselves, we do ourselves a misjustice. Again, coming back to that original point where I said about being too humble to admit that you've got what that person's got. And what I'd always advise is, and it goes back to one of my videos, that the things we do on a day-to-day basis, or on a week-by-week basis, or on a day-to-day basis, the skills we have, the abilities we have, and this is something I'm really grappling with at the moment, it is so important that they get given the recognition from yourself. Don't worry about what other people think, because I think sometimes when we have a tendency to feel like shit, we tend to lean in towards others. Oh, can you make me feel good? Can you admire me? Can you remind me of all these great things? There's nothing wrong with that. There's genuine, but when it is your sole crutch for inner content and peace and confidence and security, that's where we need to kind of start thinking, actually, can we do this ourselves? And again, this is something that I'm working on, if I'm really honest. That is looking at myself and saying, you know what, Ben, that was a good thing you did today. You know what, that's a good skill. That's helpful. You know what, Ben, I'll be really honest, that's not so helpful. Maybe you need to chill out a little bit. Maybe we could tweak things a little bit. But it's being able to acknowledge what you bring to this world. It is being acknowledge your self-worth, your contribution, that you're a human being worthy of respect, of kindness, of all of these redeeming qualities of love and acceptance. But bringing it back to the most important thing, not underestimating the power and what the contribution and how appreciative or how much of a difference you and the skills that you bring to this world make. It's really important to link in even to the smallest of things, even though you do it all the time, just to say, actually, no, that's a good thing I do. Because when we start really tapping into that, we feel this that sense of, your confidence kind of flows. You feel better about yourself. You remind yourself, you know what, I am good. I matter, essentially, like that. All of these good statements, all of this great energy, it comes in. That's where we link in. And I think when we compare ourselves, it may be coming from a place where we're underappreciative of the skills we have and the assets we have and the good, whether that be, and the skills and the assets, physical appearance, how we are as a person, all of these things, there's a genuine lack of appreciation for it. So one way we can combat it is to really tap into the quality of who we are, what we do, and, why we're here, if that makes sense. And finally, and this is something I've just kind of really stumbled upon myself and made me realise, but when we try to compare ourselves and we wish we would like this other person, like Bob down the street here, I mean, I swear, when we talk about examples, Bob down the street gets used. Like, there most likely is actually a Bob down the street in most of our lives. One day you're like, yep, that's me, that guy, Bob down the street, the guy you use in all your examples or anything. Yep, that's me down there. I'm Bob. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough crap jokes. Anyway, what we're going to realise is that if we compare ourselves to Bob, what we're going to find is actually, imagine you were sat in a room, 3 people, Bob, and then there's you, and then there's Kev. And you said to Kev, you know what, Kev, I don't want to be like you, I want to be like Bob. Now, assuming Bob and Kev are actually both the same characters, imagine Bob and Kev are both the same people, and you said to Kev, I don't want to be like you, I want to be like Bob. How do you think Kev's going to feel? Kev's going to feel hurt, let down, ignored, going to start questioning themselves, going to start beating themselves up. All of these things have a negative impact and spiral, and it breeds self-hatred, it breeds self-discontent. And the relationship of self-hatred and how we perceive ourselves and how we act upon that, that's another thing I'll call in the video. I've just come up with that idea here. But imagine that. What we want to do is, and my point being is you're running from Kev to be like Bob. Now take that principle and imagine now you're Kev. You're Kev and you're like, no, Kev, I don't want to be like you. I hate you. Okay, Bob, you're leaving yourself behind. You're not giving yourself the love. You're You're ignoring, or linking into my last thing, you're ignoring all those good qualities. You're trying to leave yourself behind. You're dismissing yourself. You're beating yourself up. You're not giving yourself love and attention. And maybe there's a reason behind that, a much deeper meaning. Maybe you get something, things have happened to you in life, or there's a past, or there's traumas that make you, and you're quite disconnected from yourself. But ultimately, nonetheless, when you're trying to be like someone else, you're forgetting yourself. You're leaving yourself here. You're ignoring yourself. You're ignoring all the parts of you that make you you. You're not embracing it. And when we ignore that, when we dismiss them, when we try and suppress them, when we try to really hate them and everything, it's not only, and it's not me to say that you're broken. No one's broken. We've just got maybe a few wounds and a few scars. But ultimately, the best way to heal and the best way to be at peace with yourself is actually, instead of trying to be like someone else, look at yourself and actually love all of those parts of you. Want to be you, regardless of where you're at, whether you're at the lowest of low, the highest of the highest. More so actually when you're the lowest of lows, because you're more likely going to think like this when you're feeling low. But the best way to feel better is to, obviously, one of things is to stop comparing yourself to the other people, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday, Jordan Peterson quote, but also is to really embrace and love and accept. The reality is you most likely feel like crap because, for many reasons, but one of them could be because you lack the ability to accept yourself and all your traits and all your quirks, all your personality and who you are. Start to actually stop wanting to be like others and start to actually accept who you are, who you are meant to be, your true self, your authentic self, because yourself in those moments actually doesn't want to be like that. Your body is at you, your mind or your heart is crying out to be loved and accepted by yourself. And we must, to go forward in life, to feel whole, to feel complete, is to start accepting ourselves from within. And once we do that, then everything else kind of falls into place. We can, there's this tendency to feel accepted by others and everything. I found it recently. I still struggle with it, but actually when I'm looking to be accepted for others, it's because I can't accept myself, or I can't accept something I've done, or I can't accept a part of me. And actually that's what I tell myself when I'm looking out and I'm trying to get people to essentially accept things I've done, who I am, what I've said, all of these things. Actually, no, it's the inability. What am I saying? You're asking someone to accept you for you, but actually that's your job. And also, when we try to put the power of our acceptance in the other people's hands, those people may not accept us. And as a result, that may make us feel worse if we feel rejected, but also you're putting the power of acceptance, of self-acceptance, into the hands of other people. You can't control other people. No one can control other humans. I mean, we can manipulate them and that, but it's not healthy at all. But anyway, bringing it back. And really, what I'm trying to emphasize is that when we, instead of putting the power in other people, put it back in ourselves and accept ourselves for oneself. Yeah? But bringing it back to that final point, when we try to compare ourselves to others, don't forget actually there's a perfectly good human being who actually, instead of trying to compare yourself to others, actually just needs a lot of love and acceptance for you have. Because what we have on the inside is incredible, is great, and is dying to come out, And I employ myself and every other human watching this, friend, family, of people who watch this as well, whoever. It all starts from within. It will always come back to the most basic and simple. It all starts from within. And that is where I'll leave it. I won't go off anymore. I hope that's made sense. We've gone on some real big depth today. We've talked about self-acceptance. We've talked about comparisons. We've talked about the relationship with how we compare ourselves to others and the effect it has. But also we've talked about on a much deeper level the relationship and what actually it could mean if we're trying to compare ourselves to others. There are most definitely other factors to bring into this conversation, but I'm going to wrap it up there. Guys, I hope it's been a good video. I hope this has been okay. Please leave some comments below. Please, if there's anything else, any questions you have, or any other insights from your own experience for comparing yourself and maybe a lack of acceptance, or maybe if you're someone who's on that path of accepting themselves and really embracing that inner change, then please, let's put some comments below. Let's create some insights. Let's get further to that truth and give other people those insights that maybe they need. Who knows? And yeah, we will leave it there. Guys, much love, peace, take care, all the best.